Hey there fellow coders, welcome back to another episode on CodeMaster Quest. Today's episode involves decoding a string, so buckle up and let's decode this mystery together. Now let's figure out the problem statement on LeetCode. Given an encoded string, we should return its decoded string. And the encoding rule is like this. K encoded string, where the encoded string inside the square bracket is being repeated exactly k times. And you should note that k is guaranteed to be a positive integer. And you may assume that the input string is always valid. There are no extra white space. And also square brackets are well formed and etc. Furthermore, you may assume that the original data does not contain any digits and that digits are only for those repeat numbers k. For example, there will not be input like 3a or 2 square brackets 4. And the test cases are generated so that the length of the output will never exceed 10 to the power of 5. So if we look at the example here, if we receive an input like this one, 3 square brackets a, and then 2 square brackets bc, then we should return, we should generate the output like this. We will repeat a 3 times at the beginning and form this one, and then we should repeat bc 2 times and form this part. And at the end we are going to return this string. And same thing for for the example number 2. Now let's come back to the Visual Studio Code and try to solve this problem. Now let's define the function signature and try to solve this problem. So let's say decode string, input for this function, and a string, and return type is a string. To make the output for this problem, we need to traverse over the input string and find the integer and related string to that integer, right? And to keep a reference to each integer and related string for that integer, let me make a stack here. So let's say stack from type of tuple of string and integer, and it's empty by default. And now let's make a variable to keep reference to the result that we want to return at the end, and make a num variable to store the detected number, right? So let's say var num equal to 0. Now it's time to make a for loop over the input string for char in s, and we need to make a switch statement to detect what is this character. Is it a opening square bracket, is it a closing square bracket, or a normal character or a digit? So let's say switch over the character f, actually case is opening a square bracket. Now it's time to store the result and num in a stack, right? So let's say stack that append result and num, and then we should reset the result and num. So let's say result is going to be an empty string again, and num is going to be 0. But if this character is a closing square bracket, then we should find out the previous value in the stack. So let's say let prev and times, which is the last element in the stack, remove last, and then we should update the result by this value. We should say prev plus string repeating result for count equal to times, right? Because the previous part of the string is stored in the stack. But if this is a character, is a digit, then we should update our number, right? So let's say case underscore where char is number, then we should say num multiplied by 10, and then num plus equal to, we should find the integer value of this character. So let's say integer string from this character, and then exclamation mark. And by default we should add this character to the result. So let's say result plus equal to char, actually string from this char, right? And at the end I think it's enough to return result here. But to make sure about our solution, let me try to bring one example from LeetCode. Here is one example. Let's copy it, come back to the Visual Studio Code and paste it just right here. Make this 2-line comment and then call our function Decode String. As the input. There we go. Now let's run our Swift file. Should be the correct one, right? AAABCBC. Now as the last job, let's submit this solution to LeetCode. Change to the browser. Copy it here. And hit the submit button. There we go. Here's the solution for this question. Thank you, everyone.